He was the fifth child of Samuel and Eliza Bevington.
Samuel Bevington had 9 children. John had 3 elder brothers and 4 younger brothers. Just as his father was a potter, all 9 children are on record as being active in the pottery business. John lived until he was 54. This was at least 6 years younger than his siblings.
So the family lived at a house on the top of Pall Mall and Brunswick Street in Hanley, Stoke-on-Trent. If you look at this black and white picture from about 1926, looking at the 3 bigger houses in front of, behind the small house at the apex, we can look at that the 3 big houses are still there, but the house in the Bevington time has been replaced by a house that is now a local landmark. It's the entrance to the cultural quarter of Stoke-on-Trent, and there is a sign here saying Cultural Quarter. John was apprenticed at Minton's in Stoke-on-Trent. We don't know this because we have access to the Minton archives, which are now public. It was before, the date was earlier than the dates that appeared in the, now available in the archives. We know that because he played cricket for Minton's. At the age of 17 in 1854, he played in a match for Minton's versus Wedgwood. I guess that was a local crunch match. And at the age of 17, he was top scorer for Minton's in the second innings with 22 runs. Aged 18, he married Louise Kelsall, who was 17 at Stoke Minster. This was the parish church of Stoke-upon-Trent, and members of various potting dynasties like Josiah Spode and Josiah Wedgwood are buried in the grounds of this parish church, which was renamed Stoke Minster in 2005. John and Louise had 14 children. 4 children died before they were 9 years old. In particular, John Thomas, born in 1876, was unfortunate. He was killed aged 4 years old by a pony in the Bevington's backyard when he was kicked in the head. So life was still tough, I guess. His 10 children that survived their teenage years, 3 men became potters. Mary Elsie, born in 1870, married W.E. Stevens, which is why this broadcast is taking place today, as I am descended from that particular union. Charles Edmund, born 1878, was a pottery agent. So John was a popular guy. So not only did his father Samuel want to go into business with John exclusively compared to 4 other sons at the time, at the age of 18, he registered the names Samuel and John Bevington. But he also worked with his father-in-law, John Kelsall, who was the father of Louise Kelsall. He also went into partnership with a local potter, Thomas Worthington. And in 1867, he had a partnership with John Bailey and Lewis Bradley, known as Bailey and Bevington. So the partnership between Samuel and John, we know the mark because I have a plate, a meat platter that was produced in this period with, on the right hand side in the center, you can just make out the initials S and JB for Samuel and John Bevington. In 1862, Samuel and John Bevington were given exhibition space at the Great London Exposition in South Kensington. Over 2,000 square feet was allocated to the Potteries. Samuel and John, and we think son Ambrose, were involved with 20 square foot, which at the end of the day is not very much. That is, you know, a couple of square yards of exhibition space, but they were there. And Minton's, by contrast, had 400 square feet, Wedgwood 275 square feet. Thomas Worthington and John Bevington were also in a separate partnership present at the International Exhibition. So this newspaper clip makes it clear that they were supplying the French refreshment rooms in the eastern area of the International Exhibition. So they weren't exhibiting, but they were supplying, I guess, China for the use of patrons to the French area of the International Exhibition. John Bevington set up on his own account from 1860 in taking space, part of the space in the Clarence Street Works. And this was an advert in a local directory at the time saying John Bevington, specializing in majolica and Parian ware at the Great York Street and Clarence Street Works. This confused me for a while as I was looking for two separate factories. In fact, they are on the corner of Great York Street and Clarence Street, with inside the red circle. So it's a bit of marketing hype there. From 1869, John incorporated on his own account, but I will mention his partnership with Bailey and Bevington, which terminated in 1869. John Bailey died. He caught TB, tuberculosis, at the age of 35 and sadly passed. John Bevington worked with Lewis Bradley for a short time in a second factory, the Elm Street Works. This is an example of a Parian figurine from John Bevington in the early days with the John Bevington mark, which is inverted crossed ticks with a JB monogram underneath. Some people have described them as cross swords. I don't think in a million years they are cross swords. They're inverted ticks, and this was the mark that he used in all his earthenware before he moved into the Kensington Works later in his career. An example of the success of John at this time was a works outing to Barlaston House, to which it moved in 1869, where 180 staff from the Elm Street and Clarence Street Works participated. There was a plentiful supply of ham, beef, mutton, meat pies, ale, porter, which is a form of beer, ginger beer, plus milk and tea, and currant bun and sweet cake. Amusements including cricketing, prison bars, drop handkerchiefs, singing, etc. If you can tell me what is prison bars, the Victorian game, please leave a message in the comments. So there was a band, there were speeches and toasts, but everyone, by all accounts, in the local press had a great time. In 1872, two existing factories were consolidated into one site called the Kensington Works.
This is the end of part 1. Please click through to part 2, which covers John's life from 1872 to 1891. Thanks for watching part 1. Do click the link to part 2 on the Kensington Works now.